Hey there cosplay fans, welcome to my final Metrocon mascot walkthrough video. In this series, I've documented the creation of my 2015 Brains mascot, Professor Opal Hayden. Previously, we talked about patterning and sewing, and now we'll get into detail work. Let's start with buttons. Last episode, I explained attaching buttons and making buttonholes, but now I want to talk about the buttons themselves. Since Opal is drawn with the same shade of gold in all her outfit, I wanted to match the buttons and trim. So I bought some 4-way stretch performance wear gold fabric to create my trim and customize my buttons. I simply cut a small square of the fabric and stretched it around my buttons, then applied a dash of hot glue. For the record, hot glue is just about my favorite thing in the world. There's very little it can't make. Consider it the Hephaestus of your cosplay pantheon. I used a similar approach to making Opal's earrings. I wanted to make the shape from foam so it would be extra lightweight on my ears, so I cut up and hot glued some upholstery foam to earring blanks, then stretched the fabric over them in the same manner as the buttons. By the way, if your skin reacts to earrings like mine, they get all swollen and allergic, you can prevent that by adding some clear coat nail polish to the stud and backing. Now let's talk about Opal's gym. No, she's not a Steven Universe character, but she does have a gem set into her shirt. I decided to make it after her namesake, and Resin Cast an opal. In order to achieve this, I took some basic clear resin and poured it into a mold with iridescent tinsel. I looked all over for an oval mold in the stores, but settled on using half of an Easter egg instead. I used EasyCast resin and release spray, but there are different brands out there. Make sure to follow their instructions when mixing and pouring. Resin is very particular about measuring your parts. Be consistent and precise with your methods, or else it might not cure properly. For EasyCast, it requires a 50-50 two-step mix. Measure equal parts and mix them in one cup, then transfer them to a second cup and stir again before pouring into the mold. Make sure to tap the mold to release air bubbles. If you have a heat lamp, then using that will also help clear out air bubbles. After it cured, I dumped it out of the mold and trimmed down the edges to be perfectly flat. Because it's clear, it was important to glue it to a white backing, in this case, a simple piece of computer paper. I also clear coated it with nail polish to bring out the shine. Then I hot glued the gold trim and attached it to the shirt. I also added a clip to the back to keep it from sagging. Now it's time to whip out our old friend the iron because we're going to work on trim and lettering. In this case, I used fusibles to get a crisp, consistent look. First, we'll talk trim. Sometimes I sew it on, sometimes I iron it on, it really depends on the project. For this one, I did a mix. All the gold trim I sewed on, and most of the black I ironed on. For the ironing, I use a product called Heat and Bond. I love this stuff. If you ever need a symbol or patch, Heat and Bond is great for that, provided you have a fabric that will take to fusibles. In fact, my first mascot, Avery M. Jones, had a big symbol on her shirt. I used Heat and Bond for the entire piece. It comes in different types, shapes, and sizes, and for trim, I use the heavy-duty strip. It's on a roll like tape, and you can even put it on a dispenser if you'd like. To attach it, just place the textured side facing your trim and run the iron over it for a few seconds. When you're ready to attach the trim to the main piece, remove the paper backing and place the trim, use pins if necessary, then iron it on. Test for any loose areas. Especially if you have multiple layers of fabric, you may need to press the iron for a little longer to make sure the glue melts. Voila! You have beautiful, easy to make trim. Now, Opal has a ton of writing and gears on her clothes. I wanted them all to be consistent and clean, so I used iron-on printer paper. First, I chose the fonts and colors, I shot for a shade of yellow that would match my gold trim, and printed a test page to check the sizes. Once I was happy with the sizing, I loaded up the iron-on paper and printed directly onto it. Then I just carefully and painstakingly cut out each letter and aligned them with a ruler to keep them even. I also made sure each gear was rotated in the same direction. It was time-consuming and required a lot of focus, but the result was a nice clean look. If you do this, make sure the scissors you use to cut your letters is extra sharp, or else the edges could come out ragged. For really tight areas like the inside of O's or A's, I started cutting them with a seam ripper, then finished with the scissors. Moving right along, I want to talk about the wig. Wigs are one of the most important parts of a cosplay. A great wig can complete a cosplay, but more dangerously, a low quality one will detract from even a well-made and impressive outfit. If a wig is super shiny or too thin or messy, then it will compromise the finished look of your costume. If your goal is a high-quality cosplay, then what you need is a high-quality wig. I know plenty of people who sift through eBay wigs or use AliExpress with good results. Heck, I used to do it myself. But these days I stick almost exclusively to Arta. They have fantastic quality wigs as long as you're okay with spending $30 to $60, depending on the style and length. Their fibers are all heat stylable, which is one quality I will not go without these days. And they are super thick with large wig sizes that always fit my head. Plus they have a great selection of styles and colors. In case you couldn't tell, I really love Arta. For Opal, I purchased a Lulu in dark green. I also picked up one of their hair buns and some dark green short wefts. My first task was to style the front. I used got-to-be glued hairspray and spiking glue for most of my work. The trick with styling is to work in small layers. Shape the hair as you like, then put a light spray coat. Don't hold the can too close. You don't want to saturate it. Just give it a light spray, dry, and spray again. Sometimes if I'm working on a lot of the wig or trying to get something to hold in a very particular manner, first of all I'll use heat to coax the fibers into the right position, then I'll pin the hair and spray it. The pin will help it set while I focus on another part of the wig. In Opal's case, her hairstyle isn't very drastic. I just used the spray and a touch of spiking glue at the tips to achieve my bangs. Remember, less is more. For the bun, I took the packaged hair bun and beefed it up with extra wefts. Here's a little trick. You can sew layers of wefts together on your sewing machine if you go carefully. Use the triple zigzag stitch and align the wefts. I then sew the weft layers to the hair bun with a straight stitch. Using a combination of hairspray and bobby pins, I swirled the wefts around the bun to get that really big, messy look. Then I just pinned the bun to the wig and styled the hair around it. It'll need touch-ups here and there throughout the con, but between lots of movement and Florida's humidity, just about any wig will need some TLC before a weekend is over. Last, but certainly not least, is Opal's prop gun. Boy, that is some design, huh? Some kind of Portal meets Borderlands meets 70s sci-fi movie thing. What's that handle supposed to be? Is that spikes on the hand grip? Oh god. I think the Metro cosplay staff is trolling me. Well, we're going to make it. And by we, I mean my totally awesome and generous friends who just launched a 3D printing company. They're going to make it. I had originally planned to modify a toy gun into this design using a combination of thermoplastics and foam, but then my friend offered to design and print the gun for me instead. So basically what he did was draw the pieces in AutoCAD 3D space, design how they connect, etc., and then send the files to his brother who printed them and sent them back. He did all the finishing with glue and Bondo, painted it, and sent it back my way. They also designed in a few modifications we agreed on. First of all, they wired up some LEDs so that the gun can fire different colors using the trigger, depending on what switch is up. There's also a movable back piece, so that crazy handle can lift up and brace on my arm. And thankfully, the spiky hand grip was replaced with a smooth, comfortable handle. The Metrocon gear and lettering was engraved into the piece as well. So all in all, it's a totally fantastic prop to finish off the costume. So that's it for this costume. Opal is finished and ready to take on Metrocon. Stay tuned for future videos where I'll be dressed up and in character so you all can get to know her before the event. As always, if you're interested in more of my work, please check out Clever Disguises on Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, and Twitter. Really looking forward to meeting people at Metrocon, so please, if you see us mascots, then stop and say hi. You can follow all of our shenanigans on the Mascot Facebook. We've got photo shoots and pictures from our trip to MegaCon up. If you have any questions about cosplay, feel free to comment and I'll do my best to answer. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.